Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our channel. We are glad to see you here with us. Today, we prepared for you an interesting movie called Searching. Get ready for a thriller that will keep you on the edge of your seat. But before we start, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to do not miss any of our new content. And now, let the search begin. David Kim lives in San Jose, California, with his daughter Margot. His wife Pamela was diagnosed with lymphoma and died before Margot entered high school. One night, Margot attempts to call David 3 times, but he is asleep. The next morning, David cannot get in contact with Margot. Believing she has gone to her piano lesson after school, David calls the piano instructor, but he is informed that Margot canceled her lessons 6 months prior. He discovers that she was pocketing the money and transferred it to a now-deleted Venmo account. He calls the police and the case is assigned to Detective Rosemary Vick. Accessing Margot's accounts, David learns that she had become a loner since Pamela's death. Vick reports that Margot made a fake ID and shows traffic camera footage of her car outside of the city, suggesting she may have run away. David, unconvinced, discovers that Margot had been using a streaming site called Ucast and befriended a young woman called Fish and Chips. Vick reports back that Fish and Chips is innocent, having been sighted in Pittsburgh at the time of the disappearance. From Margot's Tumblr, David finds that she frequently visited Barboza Lake, which is near the highway where she was last seen. At the lake, he finds her Pokemon keychain on the ground. The police locate her car underwater. Her body is not inside, but there is an envelope containing the piano lesson money. A search party is arranged, but a storm slows the process. After an altercation David has with a boy who claimed to know where Margot is, Vick tells him he can no longer participate in the investigation. Undeterred, David visits TMZ, which displays the crime scene photographs, and notices his brother Peter's jacket. He then discovers text messages between Margot and Peter, hinting at an incestuous relationship. When he confronts Peter, the latter explains that they were only smoking marijuana and confiding in each other. He further states that she was in pain after her mother's death and chastises David for being negligent towards his daughter in her depression. Vick calls in and tells him that an ex-convict named Randy Kartoff confessed to raping and killing Margot before committing suicide. An empty casket funeral is arranged for Margot. As David is uploading photos to a funeral streaming site, he notices that the website's stock photograph features the same woman as Fish and Chips' profile picture. He contacts the woman and discovers that she is a stock model who does not know Margot and that the police never called her. Attempting to report this to Vick, he instead reaches a dispatcher who reveals that Vick volunteered to take the case and was not assigned to it, despite her claims. David Googles Vick and finds that she knew Kartoff through a volunteer program for ex-convicts. After reporting this to the sheriff, David confronts Vick at the funeral. The police arrive and arrest Vick. Vick agrees to confess in exchange for leniency for her son, Robert. She reveals that he was using the alias Fish and Chips to get close to Margot because he had a crush on her. Margot sent the money to Robert's Venmo account, thinking he was a working-class girl whose mother was in the hospital. Robert felt guilty about lying, so he wanted to return the money to Margot in person. Anxious about making a scene at school, he follows her to a ravine to give her the money there and come clean about his identity. When he surprised Margot by getting into her car while she was smoking, she ran and, in the scuffle, Robert accidentally pushed her off a cliff into a difficult-to-access 50-foot-deep ravine. Fearing the accident was fatal and could be perceived as manslaughter or even first-degree murder, Vick decided to cover up the incident to protect her son, pushing the car into the lake and fabricating the fake ID evidence. After David went to the scene of the crime and found Margot's keychain as well as her car submerged in the lake, Vick then turned Randy Kartoff into the fall guy and staged his confession and suicide. David asks Vick where Margot's body is, and she tells him she's still in the ravine, but that, even if she survived the fall, she could not have lived 5 days without water. David tells the police to turn around, pointing out the storm that occurred on the 3rd day of the search that would have provided Margot with water. The rescue crew discovers Margot severely injured but alive. 2 years later, Margot has applied for college to major in piano. David tells her that Pamela would have been proud of her, something he was unable to tell her earlier. Margot is then shown changing her desktop picture from one of Pamela and her to the one David sent her of the two of them, with her in a wheelchair, indicating a closer relationship between the father and daughter.